Next, we will discuss a passage from A Journey to the West, which is titled Another Manifestation of Realization. Is that right? That section. I've added some of my own content in between. Sometimes continuous lectures can be tiring, so I include some stories I can recall as short articles, like little anecdotes, inserted in between. Another manifestation of realization. One time, His Holiness privately told me, our tour to the West this time would be different from our previous trips. In the past, whether going to Tibetan areas, including in 1986, when His Holiness visited several sacred mountains, and later in 1989, the sacred mountains in the Lhasa area. I didn't go at that time, but I did accompany him to visit the sacred mountains in Kham, and also to India, Nepal, and Bhutan. When we visited those sacred sites, I would reveal termas from time to time. When we reached Mount Wutai, I also had some pure visions and special meditative experiences, including the Manjushri Dzogchen. It can be classified as pure vision teachings, or it can also be considered as terma teachings. However, many Western countries have a short history of several hundred years. Indeed, that's true. The United States, for example, was founded on July 4, 1776. That's when they established their nation. As for Canada, if I remember correctly, it officially gained independence in 1982 from being a British colony. Before that, for several hundred years, it was a British colony. British and French colonies, including Australia, many places were like this, so their history is not very long. The Buddha and Guru Rinpoche also, according to the relevant historical records, did not come to visit here. For instance, the Buddha was born and attained nirvana in India. As for Guru Rinpoche, he visited Tibet and Mount Wutai, but not those places, so there would be no terma for me to reveal. Plus, Western people prefer to be rational and value realism. They may not give credence to miraculous experiences. Actually, Westerners are still quite interested in supernatural powers, but His Holiness said that regarding these extraordinary experiences, they might not be able to accept them. So His Holiness said, "This time I will focus on giving empowerments and teachings. This is evident at each stop we make, as you will see. You do not need to be prepared for recording or taking notes all the time as you did before." In the past, sometimes even in dreams, His Holiness would say, "Bring it quickly." Then I couldn't find a pen right away, couldn't find the recorder. It was very frantic. And then when I got there, His Holiness would say, "Now I'm not manifesting it anymore. You were delayed because of trying to record." I would feel very sad and afraid I had such experiences. So in the past, in other places, I often had to be ready at all times in case His Holiness revealed some termas or spontaneously expressed some teachings. But at that time, His Holiness indeed instructed me this way. Afterward, just as he said throughout the tour, His Holiness primarily gave empowerments and teachings. He did not display supernatural powers publicly. There was only one instance when we were leaving the US and Canada. There was a crystal, we'll discuss this later, which he molded like a toma and then gave it to Choje Rinpoche. It's still at Tashi Choling now. Apart from that, there was very little. Of course, the day before yesterday, we mentioned Manjushri giving a Manjushri statue. Actually, that was also a supernatural display. But His Holiness did not particularly widely demonstrate various supernatural powers before the public. That did not happen, nor did he reveal various earth termas or mind termas. He simply interacted with Westerners as a Dharma practitioner and a scholar of Tibetan Buddhism. His Holiness's style at that time was somewhat different from when making pilgrimages in Tibetan areas. Even though he rarely demonstrated any miraculous behavior, it was probably due to the power of his profound aspiration of being a great, accomplished master. Those who saw his sublime body and heard his voice teaching the Dharma underwent some dramatic transformation. Most of the Westerners did. His Holiness won the hearts of Western people. So for great masters with solid practice and genuine realization, just through ordinary behavior, even a very simple word or gesture, we'll discuss this further. A very ordinary word, a very simple glance. Wasn't there an American woman in that church? When she came in, she was very naughty, but after she left, she was never naughty again, because she always kept that elderly master in her heart, though she didn't know his name. Her mother also didn't like to remember those long Tibetan names. We'll discuss this later. So His Holiness had many very simple behaviors, very simple ordinary words that could transform sentient beings' minds. To ordinary people it is unimaginable, but in reality it is a reflection of his inner realization. Ordinary people probably cannot do this. Indeed, those great masters who have inner realization possess a kind of attraction, something extraordinary. The next topic is called the connection with the Nechung protector. His Holiness's connection with the Nechung protector. When we were at Nechung Temple, at the request of disciples living there, His Holiness composed a short prayer to the Nechung protector. The prayer goes like this: The natural manifestation of the mirror-like primordial wisdom, Dharma protector, King Nechung, to you and your assemblies, I supplicate and make offerings. May you be delighted, and may whatever activities entrusted to you be accomplished swiftly without hindrance. It seems in your current version the small text below may not be included, but it will be in the version coming in a couple of days, including some content in the preface I wrote earlier, including the name of Tenzin Rinpoche and a few others. Later, because when we were working on it, during the final proofreading, we had already completed part of the Chinese text, so to avoid waste we released this portion first, which we distributed to everyone in advance, not much, just a few proofreading differences in some sections, in order to satisfy the request of disciples from Nechung Dorje Drayang Ling, located on a beautiful island, represented by Lama Lobsang Donden. Lobsang Donden, as I mentioned the other day, I believe I saw that he passed away in 2019, right? I think so. He's in that photo of ours, an older person next to Guru Menso, I believe. That's him. When His Holiness was in that park by the lake, there was someone we didn't know. Besides Khenpo Namdrol and Urgyen Dorje, there was another Lama. That was him. At the request of disciples represented by him, Ngawang Lodra Tsungme joyfully wrote this down. June 19th, 1993. This small text at the end may not be in your version, but it will be there in the future. I wrote down these words, and the temple abbot has kept my handwriting preserved in the Dharma protector's shrine of the temple to this day. Let me give you the oral transmission in Tibetan.
Gamjerum Chenle, Tomin Yendrim Zut, Jim, Soya Lamchen Yamga, Kopir Nechung Lama, Lozon, Donden Zu, Chutsuba Namdi, Jekung, the Gaon Lotum Tome Perpera Gego, Shilo Chigurkup Chukosum, Lord Datik Pitsenir, Tsepcher Galago.
As for this protector prayer, I hope we recite it often. Why? Because, as we'll see below, he had a very good connection with His Holiness. So I think, as lineage disciples of His Holiness, the Nechung protector should also have a very good connection with us. He will protect everyone's practice. He is also called Dorje Drakten. His history is quite extensive, including at Sami Monastery now. In many protector prayers of both the Gelug and Nyingma schools, his history is documented. On the morning of June 20th, you see, June 19th had already concluded, the 18th had concluded, and now it's the morning of the 20th. His Holiness bestowed the empowerment for the concise practice of Tendril Nisal by Master Lerab Lingpa. There are three versions, brief, medium, and extensive. This is the brief empowerment. Before the empowerment, His Holiness touched on his connection with the Nechung protector. At that time, His Holiness began to mention the connection between the Nechung protector and his previous life. This will be mentioned again below. The origin of the Nechung protector is explained in quite some detail. What did His Holiness say at that time? His Holiness said, "Let me say a few words about the great Turton Lerab Lingpa, also known as Nyala Sogyal." In his biography, there are accounts of the Nechung protector. Nyala Sogyal was the head of many accomplished mantrikas who practiced Vajrakilaya in the land of snows, the body emanation of the mantra adept Dorje Dujom, the speech emanation of Dakini Vajravarahi, and the mind emanation of Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava. There's a specific verse for supplicating Lerab Lingpa. It says the same thing. As an incredible Turton, he was able to fly in the sky like a bird, swim in the water like a fish, and pass through rocks without any obstacles. He had unobstructed clairvoyance and the mighty power to dispel all kinds of degeneration in the land of snows. From his biography, you can see that he truly had many, many miraculous powers. Didn't I mention the other day that the biography of Lerab Lingpa, written written by Chilo Rinpoche is extremely detailed. It describes all kinds of inconceivable things about him, and also about his past lives, with many stories about Dorje Dujom. Specifically, he was the extraordinary teacher of His Holiness, the 13th Gyalwa Rinpoche Thubten Gyatso, the teacher of the 13th Gyalwa Rinpoche. So His Holiness's previous life also had such a connection with the 13th Gyalwa Rinpoche. The great Turton could talk to the Nechung Dharma protector, Dorje Drakten. His name is Nechung Dorje Drakten. Nechung protector means Nechung. Dorje Drakten means Vajra glory. In Recollection of the Time Gone By, I mentioned Vajra Glory Protector, Dorje Drakten Protector. They could talk to each other like having conversations with human friends. They conversed with each other, gave prophecies to each other, and discussed what activities should be adopted or abandoned. Because when the 13th Gyalwa Rinpoche came into the world, as I mentioned the other day, when Lerab Lingpa came to Lhasa, at that time the overall situation was very complex. That period was very complex. So from the biography you can see they helped each other. They were and are closely associated. Now let me briefly introduce the origin of their relationship. 2 years ago, during my visit to Dharamsala in northern India, the Nechung protector, the monk who was the medium, came to meet me. One afternoon, they said, because often they have this practice of invoking the protector, certain specific monks serve as mediums. One afternoon he came to where His Holiness was. When His Holiness mentioned the Samaya commitment between Lerab Lingpa and the Nechung protector, the physical medium of the Nechung protector clearly recollected scenes from before. Tears gushed from his eyes, his body kept shivering, and he was overjoyed. At that time I remember it was getting dark. He cried for a long time. That was when he hadn't yet invoked the protector. He first came to pay respect to the master. When he came to pay respect, a lama said, "When we regularly invoke the Dharma protector here, it's this person, this monk. We have, in Recollection of the Time Gone By, there's a photo of him offering a mandala to His Holiness at Nechung Temple. But I recall that when he came that evening, I remember he was quite thin. But later in the photo, his face looked quite large, that kind of impression. When he came before His Holiness, later 1 or 2 people helped him out. Originally a young monk, probably not very old, about 30 or 40 years old. But later when they took him away, his expression was particularly solemn at that time. Whether toward the previous Nyala Sogyal or to me as his reincarnation, the Nechung protector has always been extremely kind and helpful. In the past, Nyala Sogyal, although known as a senior secret mantra practitioner of the Nyingma school and a great master of Nyingma, enjoying high prestige in the area of Kham, when he first came to Yuchang, central Tibet, he was just an unknown ordinary secret mantra practitioner. When Lerab Lingpa first arrived, he wasn't well known in Yuchang, Lhasa. One day, when he visited a marketplace in Lhasa, the Nechung protector suddenly appeared with a kata in his hands. Before a big crowd, he met Lerab Lingpa and proclaimed, "Guru Padmasambhava has come here." Then he began offering the kata and prostrated to him with veneration. Because of this connection, from then on, Turton Nyala Sogyal gained vast respect and support from the people in central Tibet. There may have been other connections as well, but this is the connection that His Holiness mentioned most often. At the beginning, when Lerab Lingpa first came to Lhasa, in his other biographies there are also other stories, but this is one of the accounts His Holiness emphasized. From then on, through this connection, through the protector's assistance, he was introduced to Gyalwa Rinpoche Thubten Gyatso, and eventually they became teacher and student. Afterward, it was again the Nechung protector who first assisted the Turton to expand his enlightened activities. This was the Nechung protector. Regarding his previous life, there was such a connection at that time. Similarly, when I offered the Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma empowerment in Dharamsala, I believe it was July 20th. It's documented in Recollection of the Time Gone By. At that time, during the invocation, there was also Sri Devi and many other Dharma protectors began to descend. I was actually a bit frightened at first. Wow, the scene at that time was particularly chaotic, you could say. One protector would descend. Then another protector would descend. It was like that. The Nechung protector suddenly descended. He sincerely prostrated to me and then offered me a Buddha statue, a sutra, and a stupa. Afterward, he related our meetings in the previous life and prophesied some things in the future. Some things can be told, some cannot. Anyway, at that time, his Lhasa dialect was not very easy to understand. Didn't we record it? After the recording was done, some of his words, later they were all written down. I transcribed all the text at that time. When I was writing Recollection of the Time Gone By, that text could no longer be found. At that time, I felt that within it, there were many prophecies about the future, and gave various praises, saying things like, Your Holiness, you are the union of Guru Padmasambhava's body, speech, and mind. I remember he praised His Holiness. Because of that, I was also venerated and supported by Tibetans living in that area. They showed me particular respect and affection. Due to his assistance, my activities have always been vast and prosperous without any obstacles or unfavorable conditions. Now, as I recall all of this, I feel grateful to the Nechung protector since he has been extremely kind and helpful to me. At that time, His Holiness, including his previous life. Sometimes His Holiness would say that his previous life was not Lerab Lingpa. Sometimes he would humbly say, but here, naturally, it seems he must certainly be the emanation of Lerab Lingpa. Sometimes His Holiness would humbly say, I'm not, I only received the blessings of Lerab Lingpa. He would also say such things. Before we set off on this tour one day in the land of snows, a clear thought crossed my mind. It is said that there is a Nechung Dharma Center in the United States. If I could visit it, that would be amazing. But at the beginning, since it wasn't in our initial itinerary, it seems it is not in the plan. What a pity. I will not be able to make it this time. That's what His Holiness thought at that time. However, shortly afterward, I was told that on the island of Hawaii, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, there was a Dharma center of the Nechung Protector, and in the end, we confirmed we would go there. Actually, it wasn't added near the end, it wasn't at the very end, nor was it at the very beginning. Probably it was added in the middle. His Holiness said, hearing that, my heart was filled with joy. In fact, there are two categories of Dharma protectors, wisdom protectors and worldly protectors. The latter are still subject to afflictive emotions and the karmic law of cause and effect, just like us ordinary beings. However, the Nechung protector, emanating from the unobstructed power of great compassion of Guru Rinpoche, is the king of karma, or king of activity, among the five great kings. In the accounts of the Dharma protectors, the five great kings are explained quite clearly. We'll discuss this when we have time. He is a genuine wisdom protector. Among all the Dharma protectors, the Nechung protector is the main protector who was designated by Guru Rinpoche to protect all Dharma in the land of Tibet and to bring peace and happiness to all sentient beings. For any practitioners, if they ordinarily pray to or meditate on this protector, look at this phrase, any of our practitioners in the future. So I feel this Dharma protector is still starting from the first day of the Tibetan New Year this year. I have been making special offerings to him. In the past I didn't do so much, but I always had this faith. This year there were some special auspicious connections. Later on, life is short. Who knows what will happen in the future? So I requested our Domang monastery, could you allow me to place an image of the Nechung protector? And they agreed. Originally those monasteries, they are very fixed and won't listen to suggestions. Apart from what they originally had, there's basically nothing. But I made a request to them. Could I? I have two requests. One is to place inside a 6-armed Mahakala, and another is the Nechung protector, because the Nechung protector, His Holiness, has this prayer, so we should all be able to recite it. As for Mahakala, we often recite the Mahakala prayers there too, but I have a rather special one. I originally wanted to build a Mahakala shrine hall, but it never got approved. There was no way. In the end, they reluctantly agreed. So in the future, in our monastery's protector shrine, there will be images of Mahakala and the Nechung protector. If we practice in this way, then we started reciting today. So His Holiness said he has such a good connection with him. We are lineage disciples of His Holiness, and he is the activity emanation of Guru Padmasambhava. This is also very important. Any form of misfortune or disaster will be completely dispelled. Here, your Dharma center has become the pillar of all Dharma activities in this place. This Dharma center, please make your center more stable, more prosperous, and more long-lasting. To make it happen, it is especially essential to wholeheartedly praise and make offerings to the Nechung protector. This is also extremely important. Actually, they have done very well. Up until now, that old Lama is no longer with us, but they have some Westerners and other people. The other day, there were some Dharma friends from there. They should all particularly maintain this Dharma center. I also feel that place is an auspicious connection. If we all do our best to maintain the Dharma center, it would be very meaningful. I am really happy to be able to come to this Nechung temple because it is indeed an auspicious start that my first stop to teach the Dharma in Western countries takes place in the Dharma center of Nechung. I strongly believe that from now on, every activity I engage in will be free from obstacles or unfavorable conditions. Indeed, His Holiness's trip went very smoothly at that time. In addition, I encourage every one of you to pray to Guru Rinpoche sincerely and make a great effort to engage in the practice of generation and completion stages dedicated to Guru Rinpoche. In brief, Guru Padmasambhava is the one who vigorously performs and carries out all enlightened activities of all Buddhas. So if you pray to him, his compassion and blessings come more swiftly than other Buddhas. Especially in this place, everyone seeks refuge and hope in Guru Rinpoche, and he is also the only and ultimate field of refuge of the Nechung protector. So if through the protector and people being like-minded we pray to Guru Padmasambhava, you will surely achieve extraordinary spiritual attainments. I think all of us present pray to Guru Padmasambhava. Together with the Nechung protector, if we pray to and practice Guru Padmasambhava. Indeed, in this degenerate age, it is extremely important. Originally, that Nechung center is Gelug, but they indeed have great faith in Guru Padmasambhava. So His Holiness later also transmitted a simple Guru Rinpoche practice to them. As mentioned earlier, it was Ogyen Rinpoche Padmasambhava who initially entrusted the Nechung protector as the Lord of all Dharma protectors. It was Ogyen Padmasambhava Rinpoche. Also, in various sadhanas of making offerings to this protector, practitioners are required to clearly visualize themselves as Ogyen Padmasambhava. In many Terma teachings, there are such practices. I later also inquired at some monasteries that practice the Nechung protector. When I visited India, the Nechung protector told me that he had never broken a Samaya commitment that Guru Rinpoche entrusted to him, and that this remains true now and never would in the future. Finally, he encouraged me to propagate the Dharma, especially that which is related to the activities of Guru Rinpoche. At that time, he spoke to His Holiness in this way. Also at that time, the Nechung protector also encouraged His Holiness to compose a Vajrakilaya ritual for subduing demons. Later, when we were in South India, His Holiness composed it. At that time, it was also Dorje Dragden who encouraged His Holiness to compose a ritual for subduing demons. These accounts have been recorded in written format, so you could refer to them if you are interested in knowing more. At that time, there was some English and some Tibetan. At that time abroad, they translated quite a lot. So I think this time we also made some Nechung Protector bookmarks, slightly larger than our regular bookmarks. After a while, I heard they just finished making them today. In a couple of days, they're made of special material. The auspicious connection is quite good. At that time, we'll distribute them to everyone. In our regular recitations, I don't dare to add too many things now, but personally, if you recite this prayer of His Holiness, it should be very good. It depends on your own situation. If you don't have faith, you don't have to recite it. If you have faith and recite it, I think there are some auspicious connections of close lineage blessings, inconceivable. It is also very necessary. So those who have faith can recite it themselves. Anyway, I feel that the Nechung protector is also very important for us, and in fact, the photo in our bookmark is also from their Nechung temple, the image of their Dharma protector. This should be very good. They should be very knowledgeable in this area, because they have been practicing this all along. All right, that's all for today.
Jirgana jirano chupai, chupun solen droa droa bandrangara badna asadarda bandrangara badna asadarda bandrangara badna asadarda